Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, we are now live. And if we told you the backstory of what we've been doing for the last 30 minutes, you probably wouldn't believe us. But if you're in this business, you would because things happen. So, for the last 30 something minutes, we've been dealing with technical difficulties. But you know what? The devil is a liar. We were going to have this show, and here we are. So, whatever happens, happens. But in the meantime, welcome to a conversation with, and I am your host, Floyd Marshall Jr. And today I am joined by none other than Meosha Bean. She is more than a triple threat. She is a filmmaker, she's an actress, she's a writer, she's a cinematographer, director. She does it all and she also has a podcast which is amazing called Creator to Creators, which is on all streaming platforms, and it is an absolutely amazing podcast. And that is actually how I came to know of this phenomenal young lady because I'm an avid podcast listener, especially when it's us, and to see someone with such an amazing platform and talking about the business of film was just so amazing. So I started following her, I started listening to her podcast, and me being the inquisitive person that I am, I said I have to get her on the show because I have some questions. And here we are. Meosha Bean, welcome to a conversation with.
Thank you for having me. Thank you so much for having me. I'm glad to be here.
Yeah, it's good to finally meet you in person and to finally get that stuff out of the way. Woof. Ladies and gentlemen, if you've been sitting there waiting for half an hour, like, well, where are they? We are so sorry, but things happen. And again, if you're in this business, you know, Murphy's Law, things happen, but we're going to have an absolutely amazing conversation with such an amazing and talented young lady. So, Miosha, one of the things that I always like to ask my guests is, how did you get started in the film industry?
That's a great question. Yeah, I started really young. I basically got into the modeling and acting side of it really early on, like around like 15. I was doing like I got signed to an agency, a modeling agency, in Florida because I'm originally from Florida,
Okay.
and parents were very supportive. Got the job. Then I started doing like window modeling, modeling gigs, commercials. It was really fun to just get that side, and also they provided acting training and stuff like that, and got to meet a lot of people and just travel. And that's kind of how it started, and then just kind of kept it going from there. Really.
Okay. So John Casablanca was the school you
Yep,
went to?
Yeah, John Casablanca's modeling and talent agency.
Okay. I was John Robert Powers. That's how
Okay.
I that is how I got my start in this business. I started out in front of the camera, based
Nice.
on a suggestion by my youngest daughter's kindergarten classmate mom. She saw me. She's like, "You'd be a great model," because I had the locks and everything, and the rest is history. That's amazing. So how long did you do the modeling? How long did you do that?
Oh gosh. So I was doing it when I was there. I was about 3 years, and
Okay.
then after that, I was doing it off and on, like with other gigs. But I was focusing more on short films and other things of interest that just kind of took precedent over my time, like cinematography, and learning that really was like became my like love. I
Okay.
loved it more than modeling. And
Okay.
people say you have a pretty face, so use it. And you're like, it's cool, but like I don't want to do that, forever. So
Right, right. So I understand that your brother was also in the business and you took his camera and you started
I did.
shooting your own films.
I did. That's literally how it started. My brother was in he had this is gonna kind of tell you my age. VHS a
Huh.
VHS camcorder
Hmm.
that he brought home, and I was just in love. I was like, what is this thing? And I was super young, and I was filming all the things, and being all the characters, kind of putting on the outfit and getting in front of the camera and doing this personation, and then turning switching clothes and being another person, and just kind of splice it together and make
Hmm.
some stuff. But yeah, I just kind of I'm the baby of the family. It's four of us, and so I was kind of a bit of a loner, and so the camera became pretty much my friend and like my a way to escape, I guess, things. And I wasn't really much of a cool kid growing up, um, so the camera was like, I don't know. I found I guess, my identity in that. If that makes sense.
Okay. Yeah, you know what? And as I was, researching you, one of the interesting things was the fact that you gravitated toward Alfred Hitchcock. He was an earlier influence on you. So watching his films and seeing the type of work that he put out, was that someone that you then patterned yourself after as a filmmaker when you finally started, really diving into it and making your own films?
Yeah, I would say so. I remember watching one summer I rented the Alfred Hitchcock's Presents,
Hmm.
and I was just in love with just the style. I loved that he was someone that was so beyond his time, and I think that he just told stories that, we. It's like, what if that happened? It's like that would just be freaky. It's just like it freaks you out, but it's like you never know. Coronavirus happened, right? And we all went shut down, and we never thought that was a thing. But
Hmm.
I feel like those kind of stories are always very interesting to see. How does a character, you know, you put a character in this kind of position or in these scenarios, what exudes, what happens, how do you deal with that? Does the character fall, or does the character figure out a way to survive it, or whatever? And I think that also stems from, I think what I really love about Alfred Hitchcock was like he just knew how to kind of draw you in. But also the characters of like I love the study of people. I really do, and I think his films kind of open up another genre of me of like like I love people.
Hmm.
I think people are very fascinating to me. Like, what would people do? Why do we do certain things? Like, what makes us tick? You know, how do we perform under pressure or whatever scenario? So I just think that he just had something that I really wanted to model my life with. After of like, I'm a very inquisitive person, so I always want to know like, okay, why do we do that? You know, so yeah.
Yeah. And with me, much like yourself, I lean more toward the psychological horror
Yeah.
and the cerebral horror. I don't have anything against the slasher flicks, but for me, I think the thing that terrifies people the most is their own imagination. And Alfred Hitchcock was phenomenal with just giving you enough and then letting your imagination do the rest. And your imagination is such fertile ground. So now you're adding, to what he shot, and you're saying, well, just like you said, well, what would happen if that situation were to take place? Now you talked about COVID, the
Mm.
birds,
The birds, exactly.
So we talk about the bird flu and things like that. And you're sitting there saying, now, could that really happen? And then you're like, well, it kind of did. Now, birds weren't attacking, but you had major bird flus and things like that. So I'm more the cerebral horror type of guy myself. But
Hmm.
the interesting thing with you doing horror is the fact that you're a black woman in a space that you rarely see black women in. So how have you, it's really kind of breaking for the brothers, the Jordan Peele's leading the charge.
Yeah.
But as a black woman in this space, how have you been able to navigate it?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think for me, what how I've been able to navigate it, and I honestly really at first starting out in the business, I didn't
Hmm.
really think of it in that way of like I'm the first black woman.
Hmm.
I think I take those titles off of me because I feel like they can sometimes feel a little stifling in your own subconscious.
Yes.
Like I gotta be the first, so it's like you feel like you have such a mantle, but you're just like, honestly, I think it takes away from like the discovery,
Hmm.
right, along the way. But as I kept, going in this business of just like working and then working with different ladies and, just seeing other filmmaker women who are in the horror genre space, especially in the independent side as well. It kind of opened my eyes of like they would say, "This is a rare, we're rare," and I'm like, "Well, I didn't realize it until now." Like because I just kind of, I kind of, I think titles can, they're great, but also I don't know. I don't want to put myself in a box.
Right.
But I know what I am. Like I don't walk out and not know what I hold and who I am and what I'm carrying and all that. I definitely understand that aspect. But I feel like I never really thought about it until later, honestly. And I think being around other women, hearing the stories and hearing how hard it is, and you got to work 10 times harder, which is true. You do. Um, but I feel like that's the business that we sign up for. Of you, I mean, we know how this dynamic is working. When you go to school, especially when you go to film school, you see that Hollywood was built, not for us in mind. Not us. It's like so we have to, you know, going into it knowing that that's stacked against you. It's like you got to be ready for it. And but I feel like for me, yeah, it's a lot of us in this space of the horror genre, and
Hmm.
that's um yeah, it's refreshing to see, and the stories that we tell.
Hmm.
And I think being a black creator is a horror every day. It's like there's so, honestly, you know what I
Yes.
mean? Like, you have so many stories to tell and from that aspect. But yeah, I think we're out here. I think it's changing slowly.
Yes.
Slowly but surely. We have, Nia DaCosta. We have so many great people coming up. Lucy Cruel, who's a really good friend of mine. She's a writer. She's amazing. She does a lot of horror fantasy. Um, just I do see us out here really striving, but I think the big budgets is what. Um, Matter of fact, I'm gonna go on a little tangent, just really quick.
Oh,
I'll bring it
please,
back.
please, please.
um, I before speaking of COVID that we're talked about was uh, before COVID hit, I got an opportunity to direct a sci-fi series for Fox, and they called me up, and I was very excited to do the job, and it was like a couple. I think it was like 7 episodes or something like that. It's episodic, and went down to Fox Studio, had the meeting, and everything was kind of was full speed ahead. Things were kind of moving into that direction, and it was going to be I guess what they say, the thing that makes your name the worldwide name, that job. Then COVID hit, and
Mm.
then everything plummeted. But it's one of those things that for me, I don't I don't know if they had a I know that in the room when we were having the conversation, they were talking about they wanted a woman of color, and they wanted a different type of you know lens of telling this story. It was already actually done before, but they wanted to do a remake, and it was like something like that. And I was down for the challenge, and I don't really do sci-fi. I hate sci-fi, honestly, but I don't hate it. I'm not. I dislike it. Let's put it that
Okay.
way. But I was like, let's do it. With the
Right.
horror, with the sci-fi, let's go. Let's go. I'm down. Why not? Maybe I'll fall in love with it. Who knows? Um, but yeah, just when I saw that, I was thinking to myself like, well, at least this particular producer who called me up had that in mind.
Hmm.
And he's a white guy, and I was thankful. I mean, I didn't see anybody else in the room besides me. Everybody else was from other backgrounds and nationalities and stuff. I was like, that to me felt like, okay, well, Fox is, I guess, trying to bring us in the room. So it felt really nice to see, like, at least that was something they had in mind before coming into on the project. So I did feel like, okay, Hollywood's trying. I mean, we have a lot of work to do, don't get me wrong, a lot of work to do, amongst politics and all. It's just like a lot of politics when it comes to film.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. And one of the things that I always like to talk about when I have conversations with black filmmakers and they talk about gatekeeping and other things, I say yes, that is definitely a thing. I said, but the thing that Hollywood is more than anything else is risk averse. They are risk averse. So if they look at your project and it is not in their eyes going to make them money, they're not going to touch it. I don't care who you are.
Mhm.
So with us, you get the, well, yeah, you got to work 10 times harder and the other thing, but, and excuse my French, but your shit got to be so on point. And there are people that I've talked to that are in it that tell you sometimes they'll go into a room and they'll bring someone along and you're not ready.
Mhm.
So the thing is, when you get that opportunity, it's got to be firing on all cylinders because they're looking at it like, if I mess this up, I'm going to be standing on the unemployment line right along with you. Now, as you said, there are so many things that Hollywood could be doing differently, but let's put them aside for a second. What are you doing to make sure that when that opportunity presents itself, that they can't do anything but say yes? Like Steve Martin said, you got to get them to the point where they can't say no.
Mhm.
So that's my rant.
All
Have you
right.
have your thing ready. Um, but let's talk about your company. You created MVP Films really young, and it was at the suggestion of your parents. You have some phenomenal parents because they understood, because as I was researching you again, and you were talking about the fact that you were putting out a lot of content. So mom and dad was like, yo, Meosha, you really need to do something to make sure that you're protected. So can you talk about the creation of your company and what MVB stands for?
Yeah, M.V.B Films stands for Meosha Bean Films, which is literally just my name, my full name. So I just wanted to keep it me. And, um, I think I'm so grateful, like you said, and thank you for those, those beautiful words you said about my parents. I think for a long time, I was just enjoying the process of growing and creating and getting a big following on YouTube at the time when YouTube was really, really good. And when I was posting so often, I was getting like 100,000 views here. Some of them hit 1.2 million. Like I
Oh
was getting a
wow.
big, uh, some very people that were coming to the channel, people that were very much involved, watching what my growth. And my mom and dad saw that the numbers. They were like, we're gonna help you, like, make sure your stuff is covered because you could get your stuff taken. You got
Mm,
real companies are like, hey, this is a good idea. And if they take it, then it's like you're just kind of out of the game. If it's whoever makes it first, right? That's the business that we're in.
yes.
And if and they'll steal anything these days. So yeah, I'm so grateful for my parents seeing that at such a young age and teaching me, like, you know uh just having those, that pretty much your rights, and ownership is everything in this business. And I feel like a lot of times we don't know that going in. Just, we're just having fun, we're learning. But a lot of people, we're in a business that is very much very nasty. People will take anything if you put it out there. So
Yeah, and that's interesting. So what, if you don't mind my asking, what 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 does mom and dad do? Or are they still working? Are they retired? Are they, or what
yeah,
did they
they're
do? What was,
retired now.
oh
They're
nice.
retired now. Yeah, my dad is
Beautiful.
ex-military.
Oh, beautiful.
My mom's a retired school teacher. So
Okay.
yeah, they're
So
very
that's
much,
interesting that they were
yeah,
not in the business, but they understood protecting your IP,
yeah, yeah.
which is so vital because, like you said, someone could just come along, scoop up what you did, if it's not copywritten or whatever, just totally recreate what you did, your blood, sweat, and tears, but now they're reaping the benefits. So that is absolutely amazing that your mom and dad had the foresight to say, hey, you're really growing. You need to protect your interests. That is absolute. Boy, you mom and dad got it going on. That's
Shout out to mom and
mom and dad. Bam, y'all. Hey, that's amazing. And I wish more filmmakers would operate with that business mindset,
Hmm.
because yes, it's great being creative, but you have to protect your creation. You gotta get you an LLC, or a single entity business. I can't remember what the name of it is, but you have to do those things if you're putting out things in the universe, and especially if you're putting it on YouTube where you can monetize it.
Oh yeah. Oh
So
yeah.
you got to protect your neck, as they say. So you are someone that has done so much: short films, music videos, uh podcasting. I mean, it's like you're a one-stop shop. So how do you manage all of that? How do you manage that?
I might be a little crazy. No, I'm just kidding.
Okay. Well, you got to be to be in this in
Yeah.
this in this line of work. You got to be a little, got to be some screws loose. The elevator ain't all
Yeah,
the way to the
something's
top.
going on. No, I really just enjoy it. I've always been a person that had the self drive, that had the I've always, and maybe it's, I chop it down to a little bit of astrology, and I'm not really big into that, but I hear Aries, we're somebody that just ignites and just keeps going.
Okay.
We are on fire, but it's something I've always just had, and I have so much energy. I needed a place to put it. So, once I stop one project, it's like, okay, cool, on to the next. And then, okay, cool, this is great. I'm inspired here. Okay, cool. I want to use this. And I try to look at it. I look at it like I want to use all the gifts that God has given me, and with the time that I'm here on Earth, and that's as we evolve and change. Things kind of, I'm inspired to do something else or something different, or like, and I think that's just the process of growth of like where we are in our life now. Okay, now I want to make this. Okay, now I want to do this. I want to make music videos. Okay, this is cool. And I loved music videos. And I think there's a great art form to it, but I just kind of grew out of music videos after some time. And no diss to any cinematographer that does music videos or anyone that does it. I just feel like there's so many more important stories to tell, and so many more important things to reach people. And again, for me, I'm at a place in my life where it's all about connecting, and there's so many people hurting. Depression is on the rise. There's just so much going on in our world. And if I can make something that kind of talks about that conversation, or gives some type of clarity or relief, that's a good day. That's I'm very grateful, that I'm able to create stuff. And yeah, I just really enjoy creating. Yeah.
Okay. And you talked about having, when you first started out, having to do everything: editing,
Yeah.
cinematography. I tried my hand at editing for like 2 minutes. Bought the software, and I was like, what? And all these, they had the spinning wheels, and I'm like, what? No, this ain't my lane. So how hard was it learning how to actually edit?
um it was pretty difficult, because I got into, luckily, I always say my brother, I give my brother props, because again, like, he was someone that I wanted to be like growing
Hmm.
up, and then he went off and he completely changed his career. I guess the film stuff was not, he changed his mind,
Okay.
and he went into the Air Force. So he's still in the Air Force currently.
Oh, nice.
Um, and so I just picked up that mantle and kept it going. And the things that I saw him do, I just kind of was like, okay. Then I just went on YouTube. I always call it YouTube University. YouTube has immense amount of information to just soak up. And so I went on YouTube and I was like, how to edit. how to do this or how to do that. What's the best this for a short film? What's the best this for shooting this? And I mean, I was like 16 and up doing this, and then I got programs and I bought them, and I just started reading these handbooks. I remember I got Adobe After Effects. Oh my god, that was like a thick book, and I was like, oh my goodness, this is insane. This is so much. But I knew no one's gonna. I know this thing of like, I've always had this thing in the back of my head, like, and it's not like, I think maybe too, so like my dad, military, militant background of
Hmm.
no one's coming to save you kind of thing. You got to do it yourself, and that kind of stuck with me throughout life. Of like, yeah, I gotta do it myself, and so that's what definitely pushed me to keep trying to learn and grow, and then it just got easier, and I was like, oh, I'm getting the hang of this. And then it's another program, and then it's another program I learned, and I'm like, okay. Then
Hmm.
it's like, okay, there's like a basis, and so I knew that's how I can get my stuff done. And with and I hate to say competition, but it is, when you're putting out content, it's like you see these people that just have a team of people, 20 people working for them, and if you don't have that, you got to learn it, so you can put it out yourself, and not wait for you got, or pay x amount of money, because editing is very expensive. I edited a whole feature film. I charged pretty well, but it was like, it was a long process, but it was cool.
Wow, that's amazing. And it, all right, so I'm on Threads the other day,
Hmm.
and this gentleman, they put up a video, and the guy is ranting and raving about the the finished product, that the cinematographer didn't use certain shots. He said, "Well, if I'm saying a certain thing, then that should be the shot that I see in the video." He said, "If
Hmm.
someone's doing a certain thing, that should be a certain shot in the video." And the question I asked was, "Well, wasn't this discussed before you guys started shooting? Okay, this is how I want it to look."
Yeah.
And someone said, "Well, if the cinematographer, whoever knows what he's doing, that shouldn't be a question that you should ask." And I'm saying to myself, "Whoa, somebody didn't get something right." And with editing, because what did they say, that the film gets shot 3 times, writing, when you're shooting, and then in the edit room. So, can you talk a little bit about when you were editing films,
Hmm.
the relationship that you had to have with the filmmaker, so that the two of you would be on the same page with that story, so then you then wouldn't have what this gentleman was going through, where he's ranting and raving, saying you didn't use anything in the way that I thought you would, as opposed to telling them, okay, I'm going to sit down in the editing room with you, and we're going to tell this story, and this is the way I want it told. So can you talk about the importance of having that relationship with your filmmaker as the editor?
Absolutely. It's drastically important, to have that relationship, because then, you guys are, it's a teamwork, right? It's team. You guys want what I do. And I want when and just to touch on a little bit of some people who are editors, or you know director relationship, sometimes it's like the ego gets in the way, so they're like,
Mhm.
I want to shoot, this looks better this way because I know this, and it's the director's like, well, I'm the director, and so, but if you have people that come together and understand that we're here as a team, and we're both trying to make this whole overall project success, well, there's some bending and compromise. Both are editors coming in to bring the director's vision, but the director also wants the editor to bring their expertise to the project, not overshine the director or anything like that. I feel like a lot of times it's just ego that gets in the way of a lot of people. I've seen throughout my career that people can't come together, and some people just don't know what they're doing, honestly. um, but I will say, for me, when I did a project, it took about I shot the project. I was initially hired to shoot it as a cinematographer. So that was that. And then they had someone else in mind. And the guy who, and the producer as well, and the director, who's also the actor of the film. He was the actor of he starred in the movie. They reached out to me later after the film is done, and they're like, so we hate to do this. I know you didn't sign up to do editing, but we would love to hire you to edit. So that was a whole separate pay. I was like, I could do that. Sure, I could do it. And I was like, I prefer to sit down and really go over everything from top to bottom, the feel, the tone, like, the color correction, from every part, and really pick this film over because we want it to be great. And going in it, I was very mindful of it's all black cast, and I was very mindful of lighting and what that looks like because I was shooting in hopes for the editor to make the editor's job easier
Hmm.
because it's sometimes people don't really know how to light us. It's just what it is, unfortunately.
Yes.
um, that's a big pet peeve of mine.
Yes, that's another entire podcast episode.
um, but I think what worked with this was that we had a great relationship. I sat down with like both of them. We sat down, we went shot by shot, takes by takes, and really see it and just pick out the ones. And sometimes it did change later on, and that happens. Sometimes the director kind of changes their mind, and maybe they're like, oh, I think this shot looks better, this is what I envision. But I'm like, and he'll ask me, what do you think will move the story forward from from like the beats and the soundtrack and the score and everything, and I suggest. But I was like, I want you to be happy ultimately. So
Right.
I think we just kind of came to of I think directors have to come to a place of relinquishing the power a little bit. I'm like, okay, I hired you for a reason. If that was the case, I would direct it, I'll edit it myself, kind of thing. But he was very much open to my suggestions, and it came out very well. And
Yeah.
it went to festivals, and it did pretty good.
Yeah.
Pretty good.
And I think at the end of the day, okay, you have a skill set, and we all get it. We know that. But at the end of the day, it's about the product that we're about to release.
Right.
So if the thing is you want your ego stroked, but then we release a bad product, that's going to do more harm than good. But if the object is to release an amazing product, that's only going to help you and boost whatever because that can help you with the next job and a more than likely much bigger job because they're going to be like, wow,
Hmm.
who did this? Who worked on this? What was the team? And and then everyone eats. And that's one of the things throughout my 20 plus something career that I came to realize that I don't need my name at the top of anything
Hmm.
because my thing is I want you to see the finished product. And if you see the finished product and you're sitting there like, wow, and you know that I was a part of that, then I'm good. Because then you'll come seeking me out. Floyd, you were on that? Yeah. So let's bring you on so I can pick your brain and see, what parts you played in that. And if you could throw in a good word and probably bring some other people. So that's how I look at it. But hey, it is what it is. But
Hmm.
let's talk about your podcast, which is absolutely amazing, creator to creators. So how did that come about and why that title?
Great question. And thank you. Um, I, it started during COVID.
Mm,
Gosh, a lot of things started during COVID,
this
huh?
started during
And
COVID.
stopped. This started during COVID,
Yeah.
so I've had it for quite some time now, and I think I was at a point of I was doing COVID in Los Angeles, so we were like really locked down. I felt like the end of the world. I was like, okay, God's coming back. We're dead, and
Let me get myself right.
right, right.
Let me get
No, but
myself
no.
right.
But in all seriousness, though, it started because I just got to a point where I was just like, I was just I was like, I have nothing to do.
Mm,
I need to feel like I needed a creative outlet. I need to express myself, Um, and I talked to my friend Cyrus Webb, who's a phenomenal radio host of like 20 years. I called him up and I was like, Cyrus, how do you do this? What should I start? What platform should I use for podcasts? I want to start something. I want to have a conversation with like filmmakers. I'm not really sure. I haven't edged out all the ins and outs yet, but I think I know kind of what the direction I want to go in. And so, we talked and we fleshed out. I fleshed out some ideas while he's talking to me about life, and I'm really grateful to him. And then I just went on and I found a platform, and I just started. I started with my circle of friends, of people in the industry that I know, and just asked them questions about the journey. And because I think we're all on our own journey. Some are more extreme than others, things that happen in along the way, but it's still valid and it's going to help someone. Like everyone has a story that is going to resonate with someone. And so I felt like that was important to really tap into, because it was for me, help me get out of my rut of like, I was kind of stuck in a way creatively during COVID at the beginning. I was like, oh my God, this is not like me. I got nothing. But when I started, things started to, things started, creative juices started coming back. I started feeling more positive about the situation, even though it felt like we were in a really dark time. But it definitely helped me through. And I think Creative to Creators it came because I felt like we all are creatives, are just in our own different ways. And a creator like myself is talking to another creators, like you, about the journey of life and what makes you who you are. And I feel like that it's like a therapy session for me.
Yeah,
That's really what it is, and I enjoy it.
yeah. It's a beautiful podcast because some podcasts you listen to and it sounds like an interview.
Mm.
You guys just sound like you having a chat.
Oh,
Y'all
thank
just
you.
chopping it up. And for me, I get the most from that because it's not a color inside the lines and the do it by the number. So, what is this and how did you do that? You ask questions, and the beauty of your podcast is you'll ask a question, and sometimes when I hear the question and then I hear the answer, I know that it takes you in an entirely new direction than the next question that you had written down on the page, and you do that seamlessly, and I really like that, and I really learn a lot from the people that you bring on, which is great. So guys, make sure that you follow her on social media. We're gonna get to that later, but Creator to Creators podcast, the joint is dope. If you're in this business, you should be listening to Meosha. You really should, because people talk about all the time, why am I not? Why am I not? Why am I not? And one of the questions I ask is, what are you doing? What's your education? What are you filling your head with? And if you're not listening to her podcast and the people that she brings on, you're definitely doing yourself a disservice. So you definitely need to check it out. But I want to talk about you being mentioned in rooms that you were not in. Because I listened to a couple of podcasts, that you did, because I love to research people before they come on. And you
Yeah.
talked about when you were tapped to do the horror documentary
Yeah.
and the fact that you were mentioned on a stage that is like, what? So can you talk about it was black noir, if I'm not mistaken? Horror
Yeah,
noir.
horror noir. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I saw that list of the names of the people that I was like, what? Ernest Dickerson, I had the privilege of meeting him a few years back at the Meosha Film Festival when he was being honored. Amazing, amazing man. Tony Todd, can't well,
Rest
I'm
in
only
peace.
I'm only gonna say it once. Candyman, ain't gonna say it no more. Jordan Peele and Loretta Devine.
Oh, I love her.
So what was it like when you got the call and they said, "Hey, Miosha, I'd love for you to be a part of this documentary," and then to actually see some of the people that you were actually going to be in the documentary with? What was that like?
You know, you, man, it was one of those surreal moments. It's one of those moments where you're like, you know how you're working and working, and you get those calls,
Hmm.
and you're just like, oh, all right, okay, I'm on the right track. I am making the right decisions, even if it's however slow it feels at the moment. However, just like sometimes you don't know what direction you're gonna go, but
Mm.
you're just throwing pain out there, you know, saying whatever sticks, whatever comes out. But when I got the call, I was very like, it was literally like, hey, Neosha, how do you feel about talking about Black culture on camera? And I was like, yeah, count me in. I'm down. Let's talk about it. And Ashley Blackwell, who's the phenomenal producer of horror noir, shout out to her. She's been following my career since I was like young. So
Wow.
she knew of me from years ago, from like YouTube days when I my first start, and back when I was in doing stuff for shorts in '06, and gosh, she knew about it, like all the bad films that I did too back then too. She knew of those, which I was so grateful for. And when we talked, and I was like, I had no idea that she was following my career like that. But she would, give me a little hello from time to time as throughout the career, and to get that phone call, I thought that was just really amazing. That she thought about me. So you just never know who's watching, and I always say that's what was like, oh, cool, wow, I never knew.
Yeah.
But yeah, those are kind of cool moments, right? Like, never know.
Yeah. But the thing you said, the bad films, the thing about bad films, and I remember you talking about looking at a script that you had written years before that you ended up producing years later. But the thing about bad, it's a learning experience. And her watching you, she saw this film, then the next one, and then the next one, and then the next one. And she was like, yo, she is growing in this thing. Now, if she had seen you in 2005 and it was a mess, and then 2010 and it was a mess, she ain't call she ain't calling you because she like, girl, you have not advanced at all. You like in stasis. But the fact that she saw your growth is amazing. So that's absolutely amazing. But I wanted to talk to you really quickly because we're getting close, and again, I don't want to monopolize your time.
You're good.
Um,
You're good.
but you talked about wanting to always push the boundaries as a filmmaker, and so how has that um, been important for you in your growth as a filmmaker, the writer, director, editor? How has that been important, pushing the boundaries?
I think that I've always been a very rebellious kind of kid,
Okay.
and I was always the one that the black sheep of the black sheep of the family, the one that's always like, like when my dad would tell me to do something, or my mom would say do this, I'm like, but why? Like, I have to know the reason. You have to give me more. Like, what is the point? So I've always been kind of very inquisitive and very I feel like that was just me naturally, who I am,
Mhm.
instinctively who I am. And as I grew older in this industry, and wanting to grow and wanting to tell stories, but not where it's like it feels like routine. I don't ever want to get to that point. But so I try to have moments of like really deep introspection of self, and then like things that I wasn't okay with talking about. I try to pose that to the audience, or do it in a way where it's like, I always say horror or psychological. It's always palatable. It's palatable to ingest horror, right? That's how Jordan Peele did Get Out. There were so many symbologies, symbolisms in that film. There's so many
Yes.
conversations that it kind of went to. It was not just one through line of like one basis. So I kind of love that model. I feel like that kind of is what Jordan Peele did, was pushed boundaries. Use something that is obviously historically a very tough topic to talk about, but to present it to us in a different and new way that kind of blew us away of like, holy crap, yeah, like, but why is that scary? And is it, what would we like, what does it all mean? Um, and I think that's up to the viewer. And I think that's why, like Jordan Peele, he kind of leaves it up to the viewer's interpretation. Like, what do you think about this?
Hmm.
I have my own theories and thoughts. Maybe you won't know as a director, but you take the story and make it whatever it is that, wherever you are in your journey now, dissect it however you need to. Um, but I think for me, for my films, I kind of pose things. I really like stories about one in particular thing that I did. I did a short called Below. Very fast, super simple. It was like under a minute long, and it was it starts out with a guy. He's saying, "Okay, good night, bro," and he's like, his friend is on top of the bed, and his friend is terrified. He's like, "There's something under the bed," and he's like, "Dude, there's nothing under the bed." So the friend goes down and checks it, and it's it's him under the bed. The friend
Mm.
up on top of the bed is also under the bed, and he's like, "I don't know who that is up there, but that's not me." Which, and then it just ends, and it won first place at the Metropolitan Film Festival in Atlanta, which I'm so grateful for. But it was really for me to pose a question of the our biggest, the boogeyman is really us. The things that we're afraid to, you know, uh, confront, the things that we're afraid to, that that lies dormant in our lives, our traumas that we don't say, we say, oh, we're okay. No, but that thing is going to keep coming back.
Hmm.
And I think it's those kind of stories and those kind of things I want to tap more into as I get older and where I am now, because I'm doing the work. Thank God, I'm doing the work now. I think for a long time, which for me, I think that's what makes a really good filmmaker, who's someone who's trying to kind of come to terms or understand themselves more.
Hmm.
I think that's what makes you really good. That you're okay to go to those dark places, because somehow there's, on the other side of that, is some answer, some
Yeah.
type of peace. So that's kind of where I am, and that's what for me pushing boundaries is something that I getting, another thing is therapy. A lot of times growing up in the our culture, it was something that was shunned. Like, you don't need that. Just pray it away,
Yeah.
or read the Bible. And it's
Hmm.
like, sometimes you need both.
Hmm.
And there's nothing wrong with that. And I think as you get older and you have those experiences, understanding of like, yeah, I think those things, there's tools out there for us to use. Not saying that God, is not, but also God also gives you that clarity. Hey, go get that help you need.
Hmm.
So yeah, those kind of things.
Yeah. Well, Jesus is the biggest therapist on the planet.
Amen.
So please, you talking about you don't need no therapy, but you're going to him all the time. He's a helper in your time of need. Come on now, pass the collection plate, people. But that is so true. And sometimes confronting the boogeyman yourself
Yeah.
is a thing that you definitely have to do, because sometimes when you face the fear and you confront the boogeyman or the boogie woman or the boogie child, whatever you want to call it,
Hmm.
sometimes you'll find that they're not as scary as you think they are. But the scariest thing was actually saying, I'm going to confront this. Sometimes the boogeyman ain't scary, but the thing inside your mind telling you that you actually have to confront this is where the fear comes in. And that could be, being on the set, dealing with, bad players on set, being in a relationship and knowing that things aren't going well, but hey, I'm comfortable. That's the boogeyman. So it is what it is. But let's talk about, see, ladies and gentlemen, at the beginning of the podcast, when I said she does everything, I mean she does everything.
Hmm.
Miosha is also an author, and she has a book out called Action, Camera, and Cash. And she also has a children's book, Unbounded Horizons. So when I say she does everything, ladies and gentlemen, she could have did an episode in living color because she got like 20 jobs. But can you oh my dang. I'm looking, I'm just like, oh, more stuff's coming up. More stuff's coming up. So can
Oh my god, I love it. I love it.
so can you talk about uh Action Camera Cash and why you wrote that ebook? And then
Yeah,
Unbounded Horizons as well.
absolutely. Y- Action Camera Cash, honestly, I was thinking like, what can I give? What can I offer? Like a lot of my filmmaker friends are always like, um, put something out. Share with the audience what you know, your knowledge, and what helps you get to where you are. And like kind of rinse and repeat and do that. And I was like, oh, okay. All right, so Action Camera Cash was something that was what I pretty much was doing
Mhm.
from when I was 16 to even now, but I've done it where I could scale it even more as I got older and more knowledge that I've gotten over time was that there's ways to make multiple streams of income on what you do, and your gift. Just people say, well, there's so much out there, there's so many filmmakers. Well, yeah, but no one's ever heard from you. And I think that's absolutely important when you get that of like what you have to offer. Your journey is uniquely different from Ted or said person. And I think that's kind of why I was like, okay, I could. And I talked about failures in that ebook of things that I tried and it didn't work. And but in the failures, it made me want to go back and kind of like restructure and figure out how to make those incomes, branding deals, like using social media that where it bends for you and not you for it, and not getting anything out of it. um and I think it started with YouTube. YouTube was what I was making my first check when I was like, I think 15 or 16 years old. I saw like something close to $1,000 some dollars. I was like,
Oh,
oh,
wow.
okay, you can make some type of, you know, stream of income from YouTube. And then obviously now it's saturated, so it's like you gotta you gotta figure out that kind of thing now. It's a whole nother thing. But yeah, there's so many ways. So that's what Action Camera Cash came from, and I really wanted to help, the young filmmaker, the young someone out there that's having a hard time to figure out how to do it. Hey, this is how I did it, so hopefully it helps you. And Unbound Horizons really was something that I really love. Kids, I think kids are our future, and it's so important to somehow. And I don't know, for me it's like, if I was a kid, that would help me,
Hmm.
and to see myself, especially. I use me because I only can speak for me and from my story. So I use the animation and things that prior things that I've had, and they use my image as the. It's not like on some Tyler Perry trip, I promise. But but you know what I mean. It's more so on that stuff of like, I
Right.
really feel like, I have stories that I went through, a lot of things in this industry that could have stopped me multiple
Hmm.
times. Lot of gatekeeping, lot of um almost Epstein level stuff, like really
Mm.
dark things in this industry that can stop you. But I think at some, that's but one thing is like, everything you need is within you. Everything. It's already there. We already have it. Sources, our source is God. We just have to listen and tap into it and stay in tune on that frequency and everything. Yeah, does it mean that we're not going to go through things? Absolutely not. Like, that's a part of life. But not don't let those things keep you down. Keep going. So that's what Unbound Horizons, really means for kids. Like, you can do anything you want to do. It's
Yeah,
up to you, you know.
absolutely. Absolutely. But this has been absolutely amazing. So what's next? What's next on the horizon?
Well, I had a few. I had three phone calls today,
Oh, awesome.
um, about doing a few feature films, different feature films. Definitely one a documentary out in Brooklyn, and then a feature film out Los Angeles, and then a part two. Actually, I did part one. It's called Soul and Breath: The Truth Revealed, directed by Mark Ridley. But we're hopefully gearing up to do part two with some really nice known people. I'm very excited about that. But I'm working on Church Hurt right now. Church Hurt season two is the next thing. I'm really trying to push that forward. Working on a few more stories, but Church Hurt season one is on all streaming platforms if you like audio. I felt like it was more palatable and more digestible versus visually. Um, but yeah, it's basically about church culture and culture and how a lot of people can be manipulated by people who come in the name of God. You just got to know God for yourself, and yeah, that's what church hurts about.
That is so, oh Lord, that is so true. That is an entirely different podcast episode. The difference between having a personal relationship and religion, because they are not the
Mm.
same. And
Nope.
that it took me years to realize that, your personal walk with Christ, your personal walk with God has absolutely nothing to do with religion. So when you see, a lot of things that are going on right now, and people are saying, well, Christianity, 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 I don't like. The question I always ask, if I even get into the conversation, is what is your personal relationship with God?
Yes.
Because Christ wasn't too big on the Sadducees and the Pharisees, organized religion. Come on. So, what is your personal walk? But that's another podcast, ladies and gentlemen.
You're preaching.
Yes, but you live and you learn. I've lived a few years, so I've learned some things, and still learning. About myself and my walk. But this has been absolutely amazing. So, where can people find you?
Um, I think I'm all over. I'm mainly actively on Instagram,
Mhm,
but like if you catch me, email me definitely. But I'm on all the platforms: YouTube, Insta, uh, oh gosh, Facebook, um, Threads, TikTok. I just finally got back on there. I don't know.
mhm.
Pray for me on that one. But
Mm.
yeah, under Meosha Bean. Everything's Meosha Bean. You can Google it. Everything's there.
Okay, well, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in. If you did tune in, or if you will be tuning in, listen to this podcast a few times, because the information that you were given today has been an absolute masterclass. I have had so much fun talking with you. It took us a while to get here, but we made it. And as always, ladies and gentlemen, again, thank you for joining me and the absolutely amazing, incomparable. It's not even triple threat. It's like what's the pentagon threat, because it's like five threats and everything, but she's like five threats: author, writer, actress, cinematographer, editor, director, podcaster. See, I'm up to nine already, so we got to find out what word is nine, because she does it all. She is so talented. And again, um, ladies and gentlemen, make sure you check out her podcast, Creator for Creators, on all streaming platforms. Please follow that podcast if you are in this business, because you cannot talk about what is not happening for you in this business if you're not following people and learning from people that are thriving and doing things the right way in this business. And Mrs. Meosha Bean is absolutely one of those people. So, again, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining myself, uh, your host, Floyd Marshall Jr., and the amazing, incomparable Meosha Bean. And as always, love it like a hobby and treat it like a business. Have an absolutely amazing, amazing night. Don't go anywhere.